Benton Roofing, and they are in North Carolina. Our engineer is familiar with them and has worked with them in the past. Their base bid of $119,447 is for the roof. Okay, but our architect included the water damage and the plaster work that needs to be done inside that we were anticipating that we didn't bid out in the first time. He included it with his Part B and got an amazing $2,500 bid on that. So total bid $121,947 at $120,000 saved up.
Without me
To do the
going
roof.
back and looking, where did I mess up saying let's rebid this? I don't remember what the low bid was prior.
I think it took it up into the 130s, if I'm not mistaken. So
So it's
I can't say you messed up, but that square shingle, if we had accepted that the first time,
Correct.
I think the other bidders may have had some upset because they didn't bid apples to apples.
I was gonna ask the same question, and maybe,
Where we were.
and I was thinking about maybe, let's talk about going back to the scallops, but this $2,500 to make those repairs, we better take this.
Well, I've
That's
asked
really-
some historians the significance and the difference of square and scallop, and everybody, no one responds.
Our architect couldn't find any difference. That's why we went, because if you remember, the motion or the intent was, unless the historic resources folks tell us we can't do it. And David Liebau, our architect, said, man, I can't find anybody that'll tell me that you can't do it. So
You say that the square is actually more primitive because you're chopping straight instead of.
we're just doing this. We did the scallops because that's what was on there, and we just wanted to match it. I think there was.
I moved to approve the low bid of $121,947
So moved.
with Benton Roofing.
Mr. Nash has moved and Mr. Miller has properly second to accept this bid from Benton Roofing, for $121,947. I ask for a roll call vote. Wait, I'm sorry. Is there any more discussion?
Mayor, before you go on, I pulled up the bid for the previous one, so it looked like N.W. Martin was at 142, 160. Who was the one that their bid went up when they found it?
I can't remember it. But it was 106, and I think they wanted another 34,000.
Yeah, Vertex was the
Vertex
106.
at 106,000.
And I think the next bid was 142 with N.W.
And then
Martin.
they wanted like 34 more thousand on top of that 106, so maybe 140.
Is
So we
there,
fall within the budget almost by just.
Very
shade
close.
under 2,000.
But you are getting the interior work done as well.
is there an expected date of completion?
I've got to get all the paperwork signed and notice to proceeds and all that. I would think that it's probably, I don't think they're going to be ripping that roof off in the very wet, cold time of the year. So I would anticipate spring, early summer.
I don't know anything about this kind of roofing. How long is life expectancy of a roof like this?
I'll tell you, those shingles been on since the 80s. I mean, it's not a catastrophe in there, but I would say, yeah, if these are of the same quality and the workmanship, then maybe another 30 years on these. But I'll ask David what his expected, because there should be, the material should have a warranty on them. I just don't know. I know on typical asphalt shingles for a house should be a 30 NDL, and I can see what this is.
Just get all that.
Spending any grant money on this, or is it all cash?
All cash.
Any other discussion, council? I ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Williams.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0. Item number 3 is 222 Forest Drive. Mr. Manager, would you report?
I think that at some point in the not too distant past, you guys wanted to look at the drawings for construction projects. Those drawings are included. Up until Friday, we did not have the money to do either of these projects. I did not have the cash. However, staff prepared a $509,000 loan application through the bipartisan infrastructure law back in 2021. We were notified this year that Department of Health had agreed to make it an all grant. We announced that previously. That grant money came in Friday. We have paid off our line of credit, which was $274,000. That has been paid off. We set aside the $95,000 that this council approved for new controls at the water treatment plant, and it leaves me about $140,000 cash that I can take on these projects. And unless you guys have different instructions, it's my intention to go ahead and order the materials for the Forest Drive project and to seek and solicit sealed bids for the Northwest Avenue project.
Let's take it on one item at a time.
Is the town planning to do this project on Northwest, or on Forest Drive?
It's our expectation we're going to plan to.
out of curiosity.
We
and
can't pour the concrete, and there are some boxes, so we're gonna have to do that separate.
I'm not a pro at this and don't know the site 100%, but I see proposed clearing limits that it's not a ton of clearing, but it's some. Is there no way that can just be pushed outside of those?
Potentially, it would require an easement from David Flippin, the way it's drawn. We may move it depending on whether he'll
It's our
grade it or
property
not.
if we just move it 15 feet.
I think there is an easement too, because it does nick his property. And, depending on David's responses to an easement will dictate if we stay on that course. Or add additional piping and go on
Talking
past
about
his
the one
property.
that goes back into the woods. I mean, it's almost like, let's just go ahead and shed it out onto our property.
So the manager is
Kim,
requesting,
and we'll check it out, but, if we aren't able to acquire easement, then we'll have to make some adjustments.
Are we doing
yeah,
these
I'm gonna do
one
one
at
at a time. So I'd ask for a motion to approve the manager to order materials and begin the project on 222 Forest Drive.
So moved.
And I was gonna give you the floor, sir. Mr. Gormas moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Miller seconds. Is there any discussion? Ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Williams.
Aye.
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 Motion carries 7-0. The second item is, the manager's requesting authorization to seek sealed bids for the extension of storm sewer, private property located on Northwest Avenue. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Miller moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Gorman seconds. Is there any discussion?
To clarify, the previous ditch was in public right away. Just want to make that the record show.
Tenfold.
Except for that one little
The ease of
corner,
that.
right?
And we going how far?
My expectation is to go to the back of his yard. Now, you can tell me different. I've never told Aaron, and I think there was some conjecture that do what you told him. I've never told him. He signed the easement based on what is constructed.
Well, I think it was a house about, somebody said something about 100 feet or something.
However far the back of the yard is.
You know, it's been so long, and
It
my
was something
last
about it was
recollection,
100 feet.
and
I do remember
I
that.
don't remember the 100 feet. I just remember.
I'll lay it, there's no drawings.
Right.
You tell me how far you want me to go or not go, and that's how far we'll go.
I mentioned it last meeting. It's still actually marked in my computer. It's 57 feet from the existing where we finished to the back of his property.
There you go. To the back of his property, the back of his yard.
Back of his property, which looks like it's probably the back of his yard.
Yard. That was the expectation. I can't say that that is indeed the rear property line.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I had a lot of conversations with Mr. Somerville, and I believe he would be thoroughly satisfied if we went to the back of his yard.
If you can make that a part of the motion,
Okay.
why don't we do that?
Mr. Miller, you've moved. Do you have a problem with it indicating, the motion indicating to carry this ditch to the rear of his yard? Is that good with you?
I want to say yeah and I want to say no, because I'm going to tell you why. Because I'm going to tell you why I said that. Because I think that this man is under the impression that we were going to do 100 feet. Now, I don't know. But,
It is 100 feet from the front
We've
of his
already put
property
a
to the back.
significant amount in.
okay.
Yeah. it would be
Okay,
a
so in
little
other
longer.
words, you saying that all we're going to do is add 43 more to the
53.
53 more to
57 more feet.
According to Mr. Nash's calculations.
100 feet.
Is that agreeable to you, sir?
So the back of the property. that's
Mr.
what
Miller?
No. Not the back of the property, to the rear of
Rear of
his
his trailer.
grass area, not the
No, the
woods.
grass area, rear of his yard. He wants to
Where
get it out of
his
the
yard
yard.
is,
back of
Right.
not the woods.
Mm-hmm.
We're already gonna have to take up a lot of trees as it is, but, that are in the ditch line.
Okay.
Are you going to receive an easement from the neighboring property because that is in the neighbor's yard?
If not, and I cannot receive an easement, I have an easement now for what we put in. I can talk to them again and make sure that they're agreeable to it. If they're not agreeable to it, then we'll have to adjust it on Mr. Somerville's
I
property.
have an idea. If you care to pass this motion, I will call Mr. Somerville tomorrow, and I will make sure he's good with it. If there is a problem, I'll veto it, and we'll take it up at the next meeting. How's that sound? Is that agreeable? I have 5 days, 5 days or 5 days to veto,
That's her ward.
so
That's your ward.
you want me calling? Sure. I've been talking to him, is that agreeable? Mr. Page?
Ended up being about 134.
So,
Okay.
There's a motion and a second to extend this ditch, to the rear of his grass line, rear of his yard. Is there any more discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Alright.
Motion carries 5-2. And I will have the clerk notify you of my discussions with Mr. Somerville tomorrow, as soon as I can get a hold of him, okay?
Question,
Thank you.
question,
I'll call you first, Ms. Williams,
question. I can see where this is going.
okay?
Now, we said that we were not gonna do any more ditch work for the next couple of years, right? That was in the agreement, so this policy's still in effect, right? Okay, I just wanted to make that clear.
Well,
so
I
we won't
don't
get-
think anybody's got an appetite for doing any ditches until we,
Right.
recover from what has been a very active year in busting the checkbook over. And am I wrong? Am I wrong?
I just wanna get that straight.
Okay. Mr. Norbeck, would you please report on items 1 through 9 on ongoing projects at your own pace, sir? I don't see any action required, but if you run across any, please speak
I
up.
will add on dilapidated buildings. 902 Second Street has exceeded his deadline, and Jennifer has spoken with the gentleman that is, I guess, tearing it down. I'm not sure exactly what you call it, but removing the metal and aluminum off the house.
902 Second Street, is that correct?
902 Second Street.
He is trying.
We've given him until the end of the year, and then we'll have to take action to.
He
One
was out
thing
in the
about-
rain yesterday.
Yeah, he's
Was he?
trying. Yeah, he's trying.
There you go.
Huh?
Nothing has,
All they had done so far was
He's done
nothing has
what-
been done. I agree with the town manager, because I look at it all the time.
It's slow.
slow. It's a
very,
slow
very slow.
process, but I mean, he's out there, you know.
the progress has not been satisfactory. Let's call it that.
Oh, yeah, that thing is falling apart.
I will note to you that is a double wide manufactured home. Building official concurred that it is such, and then the individuals wanted to put a double wide manufactured home back within the next 2 years. They could do so without interference.
Without our without our involvement.
I mean, you can still always approve it if you want to, but they wouldn't have to make any request. They can just get a building permit.
Okay.
Item number 2 on dilapidated buildings, and this is something that came up since the writing of our board packet, is we have some progress on 301 North High Street, and it looks like there has been a private transaction, a contract has been executed between a willing buyer and a very willing seller, and it looks like by the end of January, that property transaction is supposed to close, and it's my expectation that the building would be demolished, and I've looked at the contract, and the contract does have a contingency that 4 townhouses could be built on the property, and 4 townhouses big enough to hold 4 townhouses. So
Without any approval or anything there.
it is an R2 district, and townhouses are used by right, so there's no rezoning or conditional use permit or anything.
Where's that at again?
Corner of North High Street and Dinwiddie Avenue.
Right behind Slip In.
The house has seen better days. It's in tough shape.
That's the one where the roof is coming down?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The
I
walls
must
and
point out, I do not intend to make your head bigger than it is, but you take your experience and knowledge of the local community and the market, and you put a buyer and a seller together, and you've
that's
eliminated.
all we did was find a willing buyer and a willing seller and found
Eliminated a tremendous amount of heartache for this council and probably saved the citizens of the community.
you don't have to tear the house down. That's the biggest
I
part.
wanna commend you for
And
that.
that's a booming big house. That joker would be expensive to tear down. So
We're grateful for the man
hopefully
who
by
made
the
it
end of
work.
January, we'll see movement and the building will be gone and hopefully something positive will be moving forward. But
And I must say that she was treated very graciously.
yeah, we gave her plenty of options and try to keep her from not having a place to live. There was somebody living in the house, or is somebody living in the house.
Made another such deal just as good. Do you want to speak of that sometime
Which one?
with Mr. Hill?
Oh, well, again, the town is not involved in this, but as we're continuing on with our workforce housing program, it's becoming a revolving fund. We got the $100,000 back, and then we've got 2 under construction now. We'll talk some more about that. So instead of the 3 houses that we're mandated to build, I think there'll probably be an additional 3 houses that we'll be able to build. Okay, and there was a piece of property on Tavern Street. It's owned by Mr. Hill. The town does not have a contract on it, but Southside Outreach Group has agreed to purchase the property. And there is a contract that has been signed by the seller. I haven't seen a buyer signature, but the town's not buying it. It won't be titled in our name, and then it'll entitle 3 additional homes to be built on that property.
Very good, Philip.
That's wonderful.
Ready?
Yep.
The meals tax, lodging tax, do you have any questions? There was a motion that was made to proceed with some legal proceedings, but at this point, that account has been paid, including penalties, interest, and all those kinds of things. There is one outstanding question, is the legal fees that we've incurred in the prosecution of that particular matter. And I think we have it as a discussion point. If y'all have any questions, that sort of thing. I don't have an invoice to tell you how much it was, but that could be something if the council at a later date chooses to pursue as well, that you can do that. Okay, but we've asked our attorney, Hawthorne and Hawthorne, to cease at this point until council has a chance to discuss it further. All right.
Street improvement projects.
Truly nothing to report at this time. Wrigglesworth Sports Complex, I will tell you, we're going to be working on the concession stand. If you didn't notice, we poured a concrete slab that they can use for barbecue and all the outside stuff. So we got that poured. But the $10,000 cap that y'all put on there, I'm telling you now, that's not going to get you very far. So if you want to increase that cap, you want to, whatever you want to do, I'm not going to be able to finish that concession stand for $10,000. I think it was an arbitrary figure, and I can tell you that's not going to
Get
finish the
some
building.
prices together. And
Now,
come
how
to
much
us
you
next month.
think, Philip?
Well, we're doing the work ourselves, so it's really materials.
Okay,
So I don't,
Get something together and
Yeah.
next month get to us.
right.
on the finishing of the concession stand.
Huh?
They'll be able to play on it
Plan
this
on
fall?
playing on it, they don't really start
August.
playing, September is when they're scheduled, 'cause they play 5 on the
'Cause
road.
I know earlier this year they were gonna play this past fall.
Yeah.
Grass
Grass,
wasn't ready.
the grass wasn't ready, not great.
So in other
They've been
words,
fertilizing the devil out of it and reseeding it and overseeding it, and
so in other words, they putting the sinks and all that we talked, that you and us and the Gators talked about, they're doing that work now, right?
we're getting ready to start. But I can tell you, we're gonna be over budget. So
Did we not get 50,000 from the county to finish
I'm
that?
using that for a scoreboard and probably have to buy bleachers now. So, we'll be buying some more bleachers.
Those bleachers aren't cheap. They're-
Bleachers ain't cheap and, scoreboards ain't cheap. So that's what I intend on using that money for. And then whatever's left over could go to the
No
building.
Pepsi sponsorships anymore or anything like that? That stuff's
I don't think they
gone.
do
Only
any
thing
of that kind of
Pepsi
stuff.
does-
Used to.
Pepsi will put you a cooler
Meet
in
on the
there
15th or
if
is it
you
the
buy
22nd?
Pepsi products. We already checked that out. If you buy the Pepsi products, they'll get a Gators a cooler.
I don't have
So
a problem.
we still have to put the drain field or the, septic
22nd.
and the water lines in, and that's probably gonna be $10,000 between those two items. All right.
Mr. Manager, the council doesn't meet until January 22nd.
Mhm.
Is this gonna impede the progress over there to,
It's a hold. I mean, I need to hold, but I'm gonna go ahead and do the septic
Yeah, plenty of.
and the water.
talking about
No,
the concession stand, is it gonna hold you up to come back to report?
no,
to
I
us?
need to do the septic and
Okay.
the water first, and I anticipate materials and the tank and the pump will probably be pushing that $10,000.
So you're saying we have to put septic over there and we pump it to our line? Is that
Yeah,
what you're
pump
saying?
it, yeah. It's not a drain field, it's just a tank. And then.
Forgive me for not being prepared, but you and I spoke earlier in the month that you wanted to get together first of the year for an organizational meeting and some other matter too,
The CDs,
the CDs.
and that's
Would-
why
Would you,
we have it on the agenda.
would you be able to have us an estimate by whatever date we decide, first week of January?
I will.
That agreeable to you, Mr. Nash? All right, carry on. Taylor Bottom Grant,
We have a grant application included in your packet. It is a planning grant for Taylor's Bottom. If you remember, we applied last year, and they had run out of money. So they told us to come back this year and apply. So we are prepared to submit this grant. It's in a total amount of $62,200, $60,000 of which is grant money. And if submitted, I would anticipate we would get an answer March-ish. I don't know if the activities will start right then, but I think we would get an answer from DHCD. And that would compensate the town back a portion of the money that we spent on a PER, preliminary engineering report, that we've used ARPA funds to pay for. And if you can look at the different activities in there, but it's mostly planning in anticipation of submitting a construction grant. And that construction grant would be for housing and drainage improvements, primarily on private property.
What was our match last year when applying, just to know grand scheme as to
I'll be honest with you, I don't think the $2,200, I think it was just a straight up $60,000 application.
Okay, and we didn't pay, there was no match.
There was no match last year. I don't remember having a match included. And I'll be honest with you, Chastity's not here, and I can't answer what exactly the $2,200 specifically is going for, but there's a purpose for it.
It has just on here.
It just
planning
falls
grant
in.
activities, so in my opinion, it may be in kind with her time.
It very well could be in time. I don't want to tell you it is, but, going out and doing surveys,
Yeah, it
having
sounds like
community
that
meetings,
is
all that
what
kind of
it is, so. Alright. Do you need a motion for that?
Please.
I move to approve the application of the grant in the amount of, $62,200 with only $2,200 being
Either in-kind match or in-kind service.
from the town.
That's a $60,000 request.
Correct.
The grant's $60,000.
Second. Go ahead and give it to her. That's fine.
Second.
Mr. Nash moves, Ms. Nguyen seconds. Any discussion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Williams.
Aye.
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 That motion carries 7-0.
When does this due?
Pardon?
Due this week, next week?
I think she's anticipating submitting it before the end of the year.
I didn't know if we're pushing it or,
I don't think there's a specific and absolute deadline, but I think I reported last time we would be submitting in the month of December.
Armory?
Armory, demolition is ongoing by town crews. We're taking out the ceilings. We had taken out much of the ductwork. Now, the contract also required us to remove plaster ceilings in the offices or in the meeting rooms that are on the first and second floors. And the guys have got probably 2 more rooms to do. It is dusty and it is nasty. But it does not have asbestos and it does not have lead-based paint. But the guys need to wear respirators. I got a nose full the other day. It's
how much
pretty noticeable.
did the contractor take off due to the town doing these
I
projects?
can't say he took anything off, but the activities that we agreed to with this demolition probably got it under that $3.8 million figure that we had gone to and planned on expending. We've got some painting that we'll have to do at the end and some floor finishing of the
Say
gym.
some painting, is that painting the entire building?
No,
Or-
just in the offices. Yeah, we're not getting up in the rafters and all that sort of thing, but we'll be painting offices and finishing the gym floor. We will need to do that. That is not in the contract.
So that means we're the subcontract
We'll sub it
that out.
out to somebody and get it done. We'll do the painting, but the floor, we shouldn't be trying to finish hardwood floors, especially when they're damaged like this. Project management team is gonna be meeting Wednesday to discuss some plaster items and, whether we wanna go back to, cause they've got new plaster going on these masonry walls on the interior. It's kinda kitschy and may be able to save some money if we just try to paint those walls rather, and just get that old plaster off them instead of spending money to repair them and replace the plaster. We can just take the old off and paint the interior. Okay. Anybody would be interested, just give me a call and we can get together on it. Weatherization, excuse me. I don't have anything to report at this time. We do have $40,000 from the county in pocket, but we have not contributed our $50,000 at this point. So I anticipate that being a January, February funded activity, and then we can turn Chastity loose. But the next item is workforce housing, and we do have 2 homes under construction in that program. One at the old Levi's property across the street there on South Dillard, and the second one is on this old Tucker property where there's a really bad house that we removed
On Broad Street.
on Broad
again.
Street at the very end. Okay. Roundabout. Believe it or not, this is working its way through the system, and in 2026, VDOT anticipates the construction of the new roundabout at the main entrance to Pickett on Route 40, and there are some water lines that have to be relocated. I've included a letter that I did sign and have sent to them. If you guys would like to ratify that, I would appreciate it. But basically, it says if you allow us to redesign and install the new water lines, it's at no cost. If you choose to design it, then that and the relocation is at your cost. So I like the no-cost portion of it, and if you guys would ratify that letter asking VDOT to design and relocate the water line.
You've heard the manager's request. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Nash moves to ratify this letter. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Page, second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Yes, sir.
I think we'd be crazy to take on the burden of a roundabout at that location of utilities.
That concludes your reports.
For those items, yes.
New business, item number 1A that I mentioned prior to the beginning of this meeting. Mr. Page has asked the council to discuss our current ordinance concerning banners and temporary signage. Mr. Page has made several requests in item number 1 that will be taken up next, and he doesn't feel comfortable discussing the ordinance while his request is being considered. Therefore, Mr. Page, you have the floor.
I just figured it would get caught up in that banner request, and I wanted to be more available for questions about the event for council. So I just really recommend that the mayor send those ordinances over to the Health and Ordinance Committee to review, so they can find out what the legalities of the ordinance, the way it's written is.
Council, you have any comments?
Yes, sir. The court case that was referenced in the newspaper, it's quite different. Clyde Reed, a pastor with a church, rented space at an elementary school, put up 17 signs, time and location of his services, advertising that. And actually, that case was not about what was on the signs. It was about the size, the number, and duration of time that they were left there. And it's apples to oranges comparison, really, when it comes to a court case on that. It was advertising a church service. This is town property, not rented property, and town ordinance is in place to cover.
Well, that was town property too. That's why the suit was against the town of Gilbert, number one. And number two, it doesn't matter what the sign says. It was a content-based restriction, and that's what the ruling outlawed. Doesn't matter what the content is.
It wasn't related to the content, sir. I read it as well.
Yeah.
Size, number, duration, location,
That's why we have
certain types
lawyers.
of signs, including temporary directional ones, to prevent improper signage.
That's why we did have a lawyer. I wish we'd have a lawyer current.
Well, I mean, this
When
was
is that?
brought up to council's attention multiple times this year, on different occasions. We could have sent it over many a times. But to take action against a sign without due process, which is something we did this year. You know, when does somebody violate an ordinance and we go ahead and take action without due process? And where's that legal? You know, I don't know anywhere in the ordinance that says that we could take action if somebody's in violation of it immediately without any due process of law whatsoever.
Do we have a application request, or do we have an application form, Ms. Daniel, for this?
I haven't received
Wait a minute,
one.
we'll get into his request in a second. He just wanna talk about the ordinance. Okay?
The
Yeah.
ordinance states nonprofit
I thought
organizations.
ordinance was all the way on number 5.
Hey, look, if you guys feel the ordinance is fine, you
No,
wanna
he
leave it
asked,
like that.
I'm not real sure why he asked to have this discussion now, but
Oh, you're moving
I moved that
Okay.
in front of
to
his
number 1.
request.
Gotcha.
And, if I wasn't clear to that, I apologize, sir.
I'm good now.
I mean,
Well, I appreciate what both you gentlemen are saying, and I guess, it may sound simple to refer this to the committee, but I feel like that would engage a lawyer, and, that's more money spent to the town. And we don't have the luxury of the inexpensive legal fees we used to have. So I've gotta keep that in mind. I would like to get the pulse of the council, to see if your request is worthy to send it over. It is my right to refer, but if the council doesn't have any desire to pursue it, then I don't see the need to refer it to a committee. So what is the consensus of of the council? Is it something that we need to look into, the validity and the legalness of our banner policies?
I think if you go back and look at the issue that had arisen last week before last, I'd partly blame it on the town because we did not receive and we did not request. We need to have those applications complete 100% when they're sent to us, not last minute, just throw it in there. I wanna see a document, I wanna see, actual layout of what the sign, what the banner's gonna be. And I know that's not addressing the policy, but I know that at least we can sit up here as a council and go, okay, yeah, and this is where I guess some are gonna differ, we approve or disapprove of what that banner is gonna say.
Okay.
I think the general gist of the policy has been the fact that
Hold on.
the policy states that there's no advertising on the banner. We can do events, Soldiers of Mercy has been up there more recently, the fire department. I think that's the gist of the policies. And that's been for, I don't know how long, many, many years.
So when the town's logo is up there for a Christmas parade, which it has been for years,
Town property.
and the town is sponsored, but that's not what the ordinance says, sir. The town has to be subject to its own ordinance too, in order for them to be legal. So is the town logo not allowed up there as well? I mean, Color Run, they hung a banner over by Tabard Street, in front of the Armory, over the
We'll
street.
take
Is
the
that,
logo
is
down.
that illegal? I mean, people put signs on the fences at the
Refer-
events, are those illegal?
Yeah, just refer it to me. If the committee wants to meet on it as a whole, we can do that. If they want me to do some research, outside of the committee, I can do that as well, whichever the rest of the committee.
All right, when we come to that, we come to that, I'll do so. I have some referrals we'll do later, okay? Any other discussion before we go into item number 1? All right, item number 1 is the Spring Festival, for March 30th of next year. Mr. Page is requesting a banner be hung to promote a Spring Festival event in the square. According to our clerk, she hasn't received a completed banner request form. Therefore, my suggestion to council would be to table this request until an application has been completed and presented. What's your pleasure, council?
Common consent.
Common consent? I'd ask for a motion, please.
Move to table until application is received, formal application is received.
I'll second that.
Mr. Nash has moved and Mr. Gormas has second. Is there any discussion?
Why wouldn't when the request was put in, which was December 6th, well before this meeting, why didn't the town inform the requester that there needed to be some form of application?
Did the requester know that there's an application?
I didn't know there was an application. I mean, we've seen these requests, they come in, I have never seen an application with them. I mean,
There's been in-
couple
Chamber
times with the
submitted
chamber.
an application last month, but it didn't have anything in it.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I saw one for the
You're
art
chairman of that
walk.
organization,
I'm sorry?
and you're chairman of
I
that
don't fill out that
organization.
paperwork. I don't fill out that paperwork.
I-
But-
Personally, I feel like this is a step, but this is just trying to get us as a council to trip. And so until we receive a formal, application, I move that we table.
But that could have
Yeah,
been
you have a-
communicated,
You have a motion and a proper second. We're in discussion. Yes, sir.
but that could have been communicated to the requester well before this meeting, right?
Yes.
I would think so. If somebody needed a permit or they need something to do a construction job or something like that, I'm sure that would have been communicated to them. You have to treat everybody fairly. To just come into a meeting and deny it when you had all this time to ask the request. DBI sent me an application, I filled that out. So why couldn't the town? Is it because I filed for it or what's going on here?
Well, I think that you have, ample time to fill it out and get the information, cause it's not until March, it's December. You do your part and then we'll
Well,
come back and do
it
ours.
takes months to plan an event.
But do the
Yeah.
application, cause we have the letter here.
I think it's supposed to be at least 60 days, man, the ordinance, but we'll be talking about that too when we meet.
Is there any other discussion about tabling this? All those in favor to table this request until an application has been submitted, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Staying.
Stay.
Two abstentions, is that correct? Motion carries 5-0-2. Mr.
That's just clarification, point of order, the banner request. What about the other requests? Oh,
I'm trying to get to them, Mr.
I
Page.
understand. Thank
That's all in the same application.
I've got my notes here, I'm ready to proceed, if that's okay with you.
you. Go ahead.
Mr. Page also requests that the town's noise ordinance be waived during the event from 6 6 to 10 p.m. on March 30th in the square.
I would ask that a recommendation from DBI for the event come through before we talk about waiving noise ordinances.
All right, I'll get to
mean,
that, I'll get to that in a moment.
I mean, I feel like everybody up here seen these applications. It states on there whether you check yes or no of requesting a noise ordinance waiver. So again, it goes along with the same thing. My suggestion to table it was all of it because it all is applied in the same application. All of it's addressed in the application. The noise ordinance, everything. The banner fee, the banner hanging, all of it.
Yeah, but you have to provide those applications to the requester. Town failed to do that. I mean, anybody else, y'all would've just gave it to.
Well,
You saying
I
you weren't
think
aware
our-
that that's
I think
part of the
our-
process?
Wasn't I filled out an application for DBI to ask me
Wait,
these
wait, wait,
questions?
wait, wait, let's don't get out of hand.
Sorry, he asked me a question.
But President Nash was still speaking, and I'm give you the
to
floor.
be
sir.
honest, I think our clerk was put in a spot as to what the heck she's supposed to do. Because, I mean, we've all voted, and everybody's been up here for a year now. We can't throw the newbie card out there. We've seen these applications time after time after time. We know there's an application to fill out. Don't just throw it out there, any of us, and say, I've never seen it before. Yes, we have.
I've seen some DBI ones, yeah. I don't remember seeing one specifically for the
So
town.
you've seen a banner
A
application.
DBI application, which I did fill out.
Mr. Gormas?
I don't know why we're talking about it. I mean, it's all part of one form, and we need to talk about the ordinance before anything proceeds. Everything you need to answer is gonna be answered on the form if it's filled out. And this is available to all of us if you need it.
Okay. All right, well, then, I don't
Again,
think, I
and
don't
I'm-
think your motion covered tabling that, so if you wanna table this request, I think Mr. Almond was making a motion. What did you wanna move? Did you wanna make a motion?
Oh, yes, I did.
You did.
I don't know if it was a motion, but I would ask, we can do common consent or a motion.
No, we're not gonna do common
That,
consent.
Until, as we previously discussed, the square is approved by DBI, we, table it.
Okay.
We tabled the noise ordinance. I don't see any reason to waive the noise ordinance now until the square application is.
Well, there's a backup, which is C Park. You guys,
If
the
you don't
square may
mind,
be under
if you don't
construction.
mind, Mr. Almond's made a motion, I need a second to go to discussion. Mr. Almond has made a motion to, table this request until such time that we have an approval from DBI, is that correct? To use, okay.
Second.
And Mr. Nash is seconded. Discussion, Mr. Page?
Yeah, I just wanna know, when Miss Moore rented the square and did some events down there and asked for a noise ordinance waiver, did the town tell her that she needed to fill out an application or provide that for her?
She did. It was in our.
But the
next-
town told her when she requested, hey, you gotta fill out an application, and gave her the documents, right?
She got the application, from
It's
DBI.
irrelevant.
From DBI. Well, I filled out an application, all the paperwork DBI gave me, it's been filled out. And
Okay.
turned in, and they had a meeting on it.
I'm
So I'm
kinda
not
get-
sure
I'm
what
kinda
you're
getting
asking
off-
me to do here.
I'm kinda getting off the subject, but, I did my homework today, and I received an email from DBI stating, that, an email that was sent to you that stated, Mr. Page, stating to Mr. Page that they would not be issuing permits for the use of the square at this time due to the unknown schedule of the pavilion construction. They offered to revisit the issue in January when the construction plans should be established. So their thing is, they don't want the square being used while there's construction going on. And, did you receive that email?
I got it, I believe today or yesterday.
Okay, all right, so he does not have this does not have approval from DBI.
Currently, I was not at the meeting, but it's my awareness that there was no approval.
Well, I
Is that
saw the
correct?
email, so I'm just telling you,
Yes.
his request has been tabled. So there's a motion and a second to table the noise ordinance, the noise ordinance request. Is there any more discussion?
Ms. Daniel, can you please, as soon as you can, come into work tomorrow morning and forward a, application for use of C Park to Ms. Page? Please, thank you.
And,
Mark?
Yes, because you were mentioning that was a bad.
and any other applications that are needed that are different than what DBI provided me, do you happen to have a copy of the application that I provided you? And then I think it wasn't a blanket denial from DBI. I think they wanted to follow up in January to see what the schedule would be.
That's what I stated.
He said-
That's
Yeah,
what I
I
stated.
don't think
He
there's
did say
gonna be, if there's no construction or the construction complete, I don't think there's gonna be any problem approving the general use request. I don't think there's any issues there.
We want the square to be
Yeah, we
used.
want it to be used. It's just with construction happening, with the revitalization, we don't wanna tell you one thing, have you do a bunch of planning, and then say, oh, well, construction's gonna be happening. We should have a pre-construction, some sort of notion of pre-construction sometime, hopefully, early January, but contractors are,
I'm just confused at what other applications need to be filled out. I filled out a 2-page application, signed it, I marked everything on there. Road closures, everything that the event would need or could possibly need,
I think.
and I turned it in.
I think the main issue is there's a separate banner application, I believe. I believe that is separate from the DBI form. It can be combined and there's a design committee for DBI, where this could probably be handled a little easier without it having to be up here. If get common consent from council, I can bring something to present at the next meeting.
Please
that would
do.
say that.
Please do, and we'll have it on the agenda. Okay? So we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Any
Abstain.
opposed?
Abstain.
Ms. Nguyen, did you vote in the affirmative? So the motion carries 6-0-1. All right, any other discussion about your request, Mr. Page? Okay. Business, item number 2 is a, annual engineering contract for Progressive Engineering. Mr. Manager, do you have any comments?
This is the same contract that we typically see, the hourly rates have increased from the year previous. And, this is a on-call contract that we have with Progressive Engineering. They've been the town's electrical engineering consultants since the early 80s, and they're asking that we continue the relationship, and we very much like to. There's no minimum amount. It's only used as needed or on call. And some of you may have met Robert Thomas in the past, but he's been with the town apparently since the Richard Lee days. And we'd like to continue that relationship if we can.
You've heard the manager's request. Is there a motion to approve this contract?
So moved.
Mr. Nash has moved. Is there a second?
I'm sorry.
Mr. Gorman says second. Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
You said it was a change in the hourly rate
Mhm.
from what to what, or?
I don't have
It's a big
the
difference,
previous,
or it's
but
not? I'm looking on the paperwork and I don't see it.
I think it's $170, but I'll check and I will respond to you with an answer on that from last year. I think this is, for the principals, 174, if I'm not mistaken now.
I think it's 179 now.
174 for the principal.
For the principal.
And the other
For
professional
the most part,
engineer-
Robert is the only consultant that we typically will.
Right, well, he's got another engineer with his PE stamp, and he is at 168.90 an hour.
And I will provide Carolyn last year's rate schedule too.
Very good, and I'd like to have that too. If you could just get the clerk to email it to everybody, that would be, it'd be wonderful.
Yeah, that's this year, but she,
Last year, I
oh, was that last year?
I thought,
166.
I beg your pardon?
166.
Okay, so $9 increase or whatever the math is. I saw it somewhere, I swear I thought I did. Is it in the package? Is it in the
No, I
package?
just pulled it up from last year.
Okay, there's a comparison to something in here.
The principal was 166 last year, 176.
Okay, all right. Are you not having this information, are you agreeable to
Yes,
continue?
yes.
Is there any other discussion on this,
Does that help you, Ms. Williams, with-
Yeah, I just asked a question.
Is there any change in the per diem rate?
Pardon?
The per diem rate, is there any change in that?
Did you pull it back up?
I think the per diem is gonna reflect the hourly rate.
That should be about right. The 174 times 8 would be 1,300.
Okay.
Last year was $1,333.
All right.
Any other discussion, council? Ask for a roll call vote, beginning with Ms. Williams.
Aye.
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 That motion carries 7-0. Item number 3.
We've received a request from DBI to assist with collections on a delinquent account, I think is for a grant repayment.
Move to table this discussion until the next meeting.
Move to table this, okay.
I have a motion from Mr. Ullman to table. Is there a second?
I think the,
I second it because I guess he's DBI liaison for us and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, we're, some other things came up, we wanna discuss a little more before we come back.
Okay.
So the plan is not complete, right?
Yeah, the plan's not complete.
Plan's not
Yes,
complete.
come with me, yeah.
So I believe that's Mr. Ullman and Mr. Nash. Is that correct? It made a motion to table. Is there any discussion?
Oh, yeah.
Any discussion now? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? This motion carries 7-0. Item number 4, Mr. Manager, you want to talk about your CD investments?
We were gonna talk about this at the finance committee meeting, but we didn't have a quorum last week. We have put out, a request for proposals, to 3 different private banks for CD rates for 6-month, 1-year, and 2-year rates. The expected investment would be $2.15 million, and I'll have that number finalized. Your packet says that they would come back on the 1st of the year, the 31st of December. I think Jackie's RFP actually said January 3rd, so it won't be back till the 3rd. And I think we talked a little bit about having an organizational meeting or something like that, so that this could be on the agenda as well. We have invested $4 million last year. Last December, we invested $4 million total dollars. $3,660,000 of that was true reserve. Our finance plan shows that we're about $1,600,000 short still of reserve based on the finance plan that had been approved years ago and then it's presented every 2 years. In June, when the first CD that was 6 months, or the first treasury note matured, we received interest payment of $55,000 plus the $1 million principal. Reinvested that very quickly, just stuck it in a CD at 4.85%. But now that the second or the 1-year treasury is coming available, we believe that we'll be able to invest $2,150,000, which would be all your interest income from the $4 million through the course of the first year. And my expectation is that the CDs represent the best, least volatile at this time. But those treasury rates at one time were the thing. They were really going. Yeah, so I think we took full advantage of that, but I think CD rates are now back at or close to 5%.
This will be your last time until I think you're gonna see those drop tremendously.
I think you may see them drop.
Yeah,
So
I'm sort of a novice economist, and I've been watching it, and the Fed's already said they're gonna cut 3 times, so that could be 5 next year. So I think your shorter term are gonna be probably much more attractive. Do you need any action from council?
no, because we've already issued it, and just let you guys know that those are out. There's still $2 million that is invested in treasuries, and they'll mature next December. So we'll be in this process again next December. Wouldn't mind looking at local government investment pool, like CDs, because it's a known quantity and it's a safe bet, and you know what you're going to do. So, but I wouldn't mind having somebody from LGIP come meet with the finance committee at some point, so I can learn a little bit more. I've never invested monies with them, but I think that VIP program, we tried that. That rascal was volatile and all up and down and that sort of thing. So we're just requesting quotes on CDs at this time.
All right, very good. Chief Murphy, will you join me up at the podium? I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Oh joy, my first meeting. I'm gonna kinda, I want the chief up here to help me I'm gonna stumble through this. I wanna talk about the people soliciting and, you know, the problems we've been having with knocking on doors and all that.
Yes,
So
sir.
it's just, this is sorta gonna be a mayor's minute committee referral all rolled up in one. So, I've been involved in several incidents and have been heard from our citizens that we're having a lot of people banging on doors, asking for money after dark, approaching people in the street or the sidewalk. And, before the chief was appointed chief, you know, we discussed that.
Yes, sir.
And, your response to me was, is that the ordinance we have in place doesn't have the proper teeth.
Correct.
So that you're handcuffed.
Yes, sir. Our hands
No
are
pun
tied.
intended.
Yes, sir. Our hands are tied because the town ordinance was pretty old. I believe 70s or 80s was when it was last revised. And it is not constitutional to charge somebody for solicitation of money unless the town code is properly written and checks all the boxes. So it was my recommendation that an attorney overlook it and give us some recommendations if that's something council wanted us to be able to enforce.
Can you refer that to?
I'm definitely gonna do it.
The committee?
I'm looking for the nodding of heads and I see it. So I'm gonna ask, Chairman Allman to take this up with his committee. And I would like for you to attend those meetings if you could.
Yes, sir.
And guide and consult, and then we get an attorney, because you know these calls now are coming in a little bit too frequently, and I'm afraid if I want to make sure we're doing all we can. So I appreciate that, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Health and Ordinance Committee.
Health and Ordinance Committee, and I'm also going to be referring the banners and to Health and Ordinance Committee as well. While you're up here, Chief, we're kind of getting out of order here, but I asked council to look at your police report, and if you had any questions for him while he's here, I know he'd be delighted to take them. Any questions? I'm going to be meeting with the chief tomorrow with the manager, just to check in with him, and I have a few issues that I want to talk to him about, and I just think it would be healthy if I have a little meeting now that he's settled in, and if you like, I'll report back to you on how that went.
Just for public information, has the incident from yesterday evening, is that all been taken care of?
Yes and no. Some I can't go into much because it's juveniles involved, but that process requires us to talk with a juvenile probation officer to get any charges. So
But some arrests.
that yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Chief, so much.
Yes, sir.
We also have we have a committee referrals. We have a ditch on Second Street. Miss Mary LeGrand has asked me to look into it. I think she's spoken to the town manager. I'm gonna refer that ditch to Mr. Miller and the Street and Light Committee. Did you have something, Mr. Page?
Yeah, you were talking about solicitation, and I was gonna see, if we're gonna have it reviewed, it may be a good time. I know we had a problem a little while back with door-to-door salesmen as well. If you're gonna revamp that law, it may be a good opportunity for, since we can regulate commerce, to require permitting for any door-to-door transaction, such as sales, which means somebody would have to file an application.
I think we have to have an itinerant
I think that
merchant
falls under
license.
under
Is that
Merchant
correct?
$500.
Is that correct? Okay. All right, but I have no problem with that.
You
Mr.
don't have permanent situs in the town.
I beg your pardon?
You don't have a permanent site.
If you don't have brick and mortar
Right.
location.
You have to have an itinerant merchant license, okay.
But to knock on a door and try to sell, I don't know,
Itinerant merchant.
you gotta have
Get
a,
a $500 permit.
to knock, to knock on the door.
Yes.
Oh, we already have that in place?
We do. We have it
Okay,
in place.
all right, good, good.
All right. Mr. Manager, do you have any referrals that you'd like me to consider? All right, Mayor's Minute. On December 1st, Philip and I enjoyed a coffee meeting with Colonel Shaver at his office at Fort Barfoot. We've had 2 such meetings, and I think they're very fruitful. There's a couple of things that are going on, and I'd like, Philip, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like you to share what you deem is appropriate to share at this time. There may be some other issues that we share at a later date, but I think you have a couple of issues you want to speak of.
Well, I announced some of this at the LRA meeting at the county. I think there was some discussion about properties at the airfield. Now that we have a vertiport designation, we've talked to the post commander. He was non-committal. I don't want to get him jammed up with his superiors or anything. He did not commit to anything. We just simply presented that we may try to find some ways to acquire additional properties, either through lease or purchase or trade. We can increase the economic development offerings at the airfield. The second item, we talked about some bleachers that are located at the airfield, and those bleachers would be perfect for the football complex, and they turned down the request at this time. And I would like for you guys to consider rescinding your motion to increase the hourly rate for my services to the county from $100 to $200. I think the county feels like they waived a $26,000 building permit fee for the town, which they did. We just recently received almost 12 acres of land from them, which we did. I I need some bleachers, and I don't really have enough money to do it. And I think they're agreeable to it, but I can't say that was a condition that they put on there. But that was the reason given why the bleachers weren't given to the town, given to the Gators program.
Well, you,
Reasons behind it. Jake didn't make that motion or suggestion. Simply fruitless. I mean, we did it because I was promised personally in a meeting, sitting in Philip's office, that he was not gonna be solicited sole source, and it was done. And that's the only reason. I mean, they didn't stand behind their word. Why were we gonna, I mean,
well, if you don't,
The reason that I made the motion to go from $100 to $200 simply because that's what a consultant of Phillips caliber is worth, if not more. I mean, we talked tonight about consultants with $25,000 bills that are just helping us do some accounting, and we can have somebody of Phillips caliber that was being loaned to the county at a way reduced hourly rate. And after the 60 days was up, which we previously agreed upon to extend that,
Well, I don't think you acted.
I made a motion for the fair hourly rate, but however, in the interest of bleachers and in a show of good faith, I don't have any problem rescinding that motion. However, I can assure you I can assure the county there was no ill intent.
No malice,
It was a fair
certainly.
price, is what a
I
fair
agree
price
with that.
was.
Is the word ethics in anybody's mind right now? I mean,
that's
we're
always
talking
been
about
for me.
backing his pay down so we can get bleachers.
well, I haven't had that. I haven't been approached with that. Nobody has communicated that to me.
The bleachers
So-
at Airfield are right there.
Well, but there hasn't been anything official stated.
Yeah, but if it's true, if they're gonna hold our youth football program at bay.
Our youth football program's gonna proceed with or without him at $200 an hour.
Well, I can assure you guys.
And how much longer is this gonna last?
Till the end of this month. January 1 is our agreement.
The problem what's going on here is the town is supplementing the cost higher than the $100 an hour for Philip to go up to the county. We're actually paying him to be there, okay? So I'm sure at your rate, you get paid more by us than $100 an hour. So anything, when you're on town time and you're up there, anything that we're paying you over $100 an hour, we're supplementing for the county. So I think that's a real problem here. I can understand that we maybe barter some services and land and things like that, and if the town's willing to trade that and it's okay with supplementing that labor, then I'm fine with it. But I don't hear a promise that we're gonna get bleachers, or anything like that.
Well, I understand what you're saying. Are you finished on it?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
I surely didn't mean to interrupt you, but I would like, I'll bring it back to you. Philip, you rascal, you got that in front of me. So I had prepared some remarks, and I'll share them with you, that I'm asking the council to rescind this motion from $100 to $200 per hour, because I don't think it's in the spirit of cooperation that I've spoke so fondly of. I apologize to the Board of Supervisors for not speaking up when this motion was made. I should have at least asked for some consideration. I don't want to get, we must embrace every opportunity to partner with each other on any action or any issue that will benefit both the town and the county. I don't think it's in the best interest of the town to get into a riff over what could be $400, $500, $600. We made an agreement. I think we should stick to it. I think there's a possibility that they're going to be hiring someone soon, just based on the fact that I know they've got to hire somebody soon. We're not talking about a whole lot of money. We're not talking about a whole lot of time. But this is an opportunity for us to put our best foot forward. I think if there's any animosity about how the situation with Philip was handled. I think we need to set it aside. And I don't think it's gonna benefit our constituents, either in the county or in the town of Blackstone, to have a riff with them over what I think is just a few $100s and maybe a little principle.
Didn't
So,
we
but,
put our best foot forward?
yes,
offering
but
Philip?
I'm almost finished. I wanna make sure you understand it's not my decision. But I feel obligated to tell you how I feel, okay? So, Mr. Nash, please continue with your comments.
I just wanna make a point, we did put our best foot forward offering Philip services,
Right.
which ended up putting us in a bind of almost $30,000.
But I also think that